Sometimes life throws you a curveball so wild, you wonder if it's a cruel joke. Imagine inheriting literally everything your mother owned, only to kick your own twin sister out of your childhood home just days later. My twin did exactly that. But what if karma decided to show up on your doorstep, screaming and sobbing, barely a week later? Yeah, that's my story. And trust me, the irony is delicious. My late mom had 3 kids. My twin sister Michelle, me, were both 26F, and our younger brother, Dennis. Michelle and I are fraternal twins, not identical, and growing up with her was challenging. I always felt like an outsider. It wasn't just that I looked different from her. It was that I looked so different from our mother. Michelle was my mom's spitting image, her mini-me, and my mom made sure everyone knew it. She treated Michelle like a porcelain doll, grooming her to be everything she wanted. For years, I just craved her attention, constantly trying to fit in, to be seen. But it never worked. Eventually, I just gave up. Accepted that I'd never be important to them. Luckily, by then, Dennis was around and he adored me just the way I was. He became my anchor. My biological parents got married young, and my mom, a budding model, gave up her dreams when she got pregnant. We lost my dad in an accident when Michelle and I were small. A few years later, my mom remarried, bringing our stepfather into our lives. He was a good man, the only real father figure I remember. He actually tried to get my mom to be kinder to me, and sometimes it even worked. But the best thing he ever did for me? He and my mom gave me Dennis. He's 12 years younger, but he's been the joy of my life, truly. I honestly don't think I would have made it through all those years without him. He's so attached to me, and he's the main reason I even stayed in touch with my mom and Michelle for so long. Then, a few years ago, we lost my stepfather. He was only in his late 50s, but he'd struggled with heart problems for a long time, so it wasn't a shock. But then, just months after his passing, my mom called us. She had stomach cancer. Michelle and I both moved back home, or at least, that's what everyone thought. The truth was, Mom only wanted Michelle by her side. I was only there because she needed someone to look after Dennis. Since she was medically unfit, she didn't want him removed from her custody. I even suggested taking Dennis with me, visiting on weekends. Honestly, staying with her and Michelle in the same house. It sounded like a true nightmare. But Mom was firm. She was dying, and it was hard to say no. Even Dennis didn't want to leave. He was a teenager, already losing his mom. He needed his routine, his friends. So we all moved in. When we finally lost Mom about 6 weeks ago, I was sad, of course. And Dennis was absolutely devastated. Even though Mom treated him differently than she treated me, she was kind to him, he was still so attached. We both expected Michelle to be shattered, completely broken. But what we saw, it was shocking. She seemed completely unaffected. No devastation, not even sadness. She just went about her life as if nothing had happened. Within days, she seemed happier than she'd been in years. It was bizarre. A week after Mom's passing, her lawyer called us in for the will. Pretty much everything went to Michelle. When our stepfather passed, his money and assets went to Mom, since his family wasn't interested. That money, and some of Mom's own, was put into a trust for Dennis, which he could access at 18. And me? I got Mom's wedding ring from her marriage to my dad. It wasn't worth much. They were young, and the wedding was a quick thing. But it was mine. I wasn't surprised by any of it. Mom was predictable. I knew this would happen. I won't lie. A tiny part of me was jealous, but I have a stable job, so I tried not to let it get to me. My reaction was quiet acceptance. Michelle's? She actually rolled her eyes when the lawyer said she inherited everything, including a bunch of letters. Even the lawyer looked taken aback. I couldn't help but ask what was going on. After he left, I finally confronted her. Politely, not rudely. That's when she confessed. She had tried to be unhappy about Mom's death. She really had. But she just couldn't. Because, she said, she had hated our mother her entire life. That statement hit me like a ton of bricks. Michelle? My mom's golden child? Hated her? But then she explained. Mom had always pressured her to be exactly like her, completely disregarding Michelle's own desires. From childhood, it was constant weight monitoring, forced clothes, makeup, making her look like a younger version of Mom. She said she'd never been able to be herself, not for a second, because she saw how Mom treated me when I didn't conform. She couldn't risk getting on Mom's bad side. She knew it would pay off to stay in Mom's good graces, because Mom had become quite wealthy. My mom had started a life coaching business after Dennis was born, basically telling rich people stuff they could Google. But it somehow blew up, and Mom became a partner. So, Michelle's inheritance was substantial. Hearing Michelle talk about the pressure, the unhappiness she'd hidden all these years, it was a moment of true clarity for me. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for her either. When she finished college, she wanted to open a restaurant. Mom forced her into modeling. So for years, Michelle was exhausted, juggling modeling gigs and a day job, saving every penny. Now, with the inheritance, she could finally pursue her dream. She was so relieved she wouldn't have to be Mom's ideal daughter anymore. I actually gave her a hug. We'd never been close, but I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be a new beginning. I was wrong. A few days later, she told me she wanted Dennis and me to vacate the house. She was moving her boyfriend and business partner in, and it would just be awkward with us there. I would have been happy to leave eventually. I needed my own space. But I'd ended my previous lease. I needed time. And Dennis? Moving him out of his home, his neighborhood, right after losing his mom? It would be devastating. I tried to explain, suggested she and her boyfriend get their own place. She had plenty of money now. I wasn't being unreasonable. This wasn't for me. It was for Dennis, for his stability. But she didn't care. The house was hers now, she said, and she decided who stayed. It was insulting. So even though she gave us a week, I moved out the very next day. I went to stay with a friend. Dennis came with me, no complaints. I didn't hide anything Michelle said. I wanted him to know exactly who she was. I'd thought we might bond, but I learned my lesson. After we left, I had absolutely no contact with her. Dennis was with me, and though he wasn't happy, he'd made his peace with it. There was nothing we could do. It had been almost a week of silence when yesterday she called. Hysterical. Sobbing. Apparently, she'd given away something extremely important and now needed my help to get it back. Oh, the tables had turned. She'd given away Mom's jewelry box. It was full of incredibly expensive pieces Mom had collected, kept in an ugly wooden box in her closet, probably so nobody would think it was valuable. Michelle, in her hurry to clear out Mom's room for her boyfriend, just tossed it aside. She'd given it to her boyfriend's sister. And then, idiotically, she'd told the sister what it contained. Now, the sister was refusing to return it. I couldn't fathom why she was calling me and not a lawyer. I told her to go to a lawyer. That's when she dropped another bombshell. She couldn't. This friend was her boyfriend's sister. And the boyfriend had made it crystal clear. If Michelle tried to take this to court, he'd dump her immediately and their entire relationship and business would be over. She couldn't even tell anyone else because he'd leave her for trying to ruin his family's reputation. So, with nowhere else to turn, she called me, begging for help. My sister, who had been so incredibly stupid and selfish, was now at my mercy. I told her not to call me again, and then I blocked her number. But then, a part of me felt bad. Was I wrong for refusing to help my own sister retrieve our mother's jewelry? Edit to answer some questions. Yes, Dennis is with me. I'm his legal guardian. Mom and I sorted the paperwork before she passed. We're staying with my friend near Dennis's school. It's hard for me because my workplace is far, but I'm considering a work-from-home switch. It won't affect my income. Update 1 asterisk. Okay, so I'm definitely not helping Michelle. This is a problem between her boyfriend, and his sister. It has nothing to do with me. Why should I waste my time and energy on her if she's too weak to stand up to her own boyfriend? I still haven't forgotten how rude and selfish she was. A few days later, she found my work email. She sent me this ridiculously long message. The first half was a huge apology. She was tired, she said, of putting her dreams on hold for her family. With Mom gone, she just wanted to live her own life, which is why she'd wanted Dennis and me out so quickly. She realized how selfish she'd been and was truly sorry. Then she got to the real point. The inheritance was still in probate, and she was scared of the legal repercussions of giving away the jewelry. She hadn't even dared to speak to Mom's lawyer. She'd done some internet research and thought she had reason to be scared. Honestly, I still think if she just spoke to the lawyer and retrieved the jewelry, it would all be fine. I've never dealt with the law, but I have common sense, and I wish she'd use hers. I don't understand why she kept reaching out to me. I don't know her boyfriend or his sister. What does she expect me to do? The entire email was annoying. She just whined about how difficult her situation was, how she didn't want to lose anyone. For someone who had just kicked her siblings out to move a boyfriend in, she seemed incredibly weak and stupid. And her boyfriend? He's investing in her business, but can't afford to buy his sister some jewelry, resorting to what I'd call stealing? A decent person with half a brain would return that box. But of course, they'd be opening themselves up to legal consequences. Clearly, neither her boyfriend nor his sister are good people. He's defending his sister, threatening to break up with Michelle. She should dump them and take them to court. Instead, she's writing me stupid emails. I have zero sympathy. I hope she stops contacting me. Honestly, if she does again, I might just contact the lawyer myself and fix her problem. Update 2 asterisk. Well, somehow she found out where I was staying. No idea how, but today, she showed up at my friend's place. Dennis was out, and my friend and I were just chatting in the living room when I opened the door. It was so awkward. This wasn't even my house, and I didn't want a scene. I asked her to step outside. She said she'd pulled a lot of strings to find me and just needed a chance to speak. I still don't know what she meant by that. She swore she meant every word of her apology. She was truly sorry for how she'd treated me. Then she said she was ready to prove it. Now, that got my attention.
How?
She said if I helped her, she'd split the inheritance with me. That would be a huge help. She had come into a lot of money. I thought about it for a couple of minutes. If she actually split it, I'd be sorted for a while. So I agreed. But only if we spoke to a lawyer and drew up a written agreement. I didn't trust her an inch. Surprisingly, she accepted. She told me I had given her enough reasons not to trust her, so she understood completely. I actually respected that. All she wants me to do is speak to her boyfriend and his sister. That's literally it. She's been trying to work up the courage, but can't. I also found out her boyfriend isn't financing the business at all. He's investing his time, supposedly, but he hasn't contributed anything yet, not even the time he promised. Michelle would be the only one actually putting money into it. I told her it was an incredibly stupid idea. She didn't say anything, but I hope she takes it seriously and leaves him. Until then, I'm waiting for her to come back with the paperwork. Then, I guess I'm dealing with her boyfriend and his sister. I can't imagine them being that scary. I don't think anything fishy is going on. She's just scared of the emotional confrontation.
She doesn't want to be the bad guy. Simple as that.
Update 3 asterisk. Okay, so it's been 3 weeks, and everything has worked out. A couple of days after that conversation, she showed up again with the documents. Once I knew she couldn't back out, I went with her to speak to her boyfriend. And after speaking to him, I finally understood why she didn't want to do it herself. I had stalked him and his sister on social media, found nothing shady, so I assumed there was nothing to worry about. I was wrong. The moment I told him I was there on Michelle's behalf, about the jewelry, he completely freaked out. And I don't mean a funny freak out. He started screaming, shouting, cursing at us. Most of it was directed at Michelle, who just stood in the corner, crying. The words he used for her were not only derogatory, but utterly disgusting. I couldn't believe an educated man could act like that. He accused her of trying to ruin his family's reputation. When I tried to tell him that he and his sister were responsible for their own reputations, he started throwing things around and screaming at me too. He was acting like a total animal. At that point, I started losing my temper. We got into a heated argument. I was pretty sure if I'd pushed it further, he would have turned it into a physical brawl. I could see him restraining himself, but I don't think it was because I was a woman. I think he knew I wasn't Michelle, and if he laid a hand on me, I'd call the cops and he'd be screwed. After arguing and screaming some more, he finally called his sister to get the box. While we waited, he continued his stream of horrible insults about Michelle, our upbringing, our family. Michelle just kept crying. I actually started feeling bad for her. If this was what she dealt with regularly, I could see why she needed my help. Eventually, his sister showed up, and they begrudgingly handed over the box. I could tell they didn't want to give it up, but they had to. Because even though Michelle was scared of them, I wasn't. Once the box was returned, Michelle's boyfriend stormed out, cursing her, telling her he never wanted to see her again because of what she'd done. She tried to talk to him, to stop him, but he just pushed her aside and left. She completely broke down. Even though I'd been so mad at her for so long, I couldn't help but feel for her. I sat with her, consoled her as best I could, told her everything would be okay. She apologized for everything she'd put me through. Since then, we've actually managed to stay on good terms. True to her word, she's told me that as soon as she receives the inheritance, she's splitting it with me. We're actually trying to build a stronger relationship now. Dennis and I have moved out of my friend's apartment. Michelle's even invited us back to stay with her, but honestly, I think a few weeks apart will do us all good. Right now, I just want to feel things out and see how they go. What would you have done in my shoes? Tell me what you think in the comments below.